chapter of all those people, Nigerians I know in London. They are some of the most entrepreneurial, energetic, pushy people I know. And in London, they do very, very well in financial services, in the law, in IT. But they still, in many cases, feel that the framework of commercial laws and of predictable institutions which allow them to thrive in London is not sufficiently solidly in place here. So that challenge of building out not just physical infrastructure, but the infrastructure of institutions is, I think, as important as ever. But then, hence, to my last point, I suspect this is a room full not just of investors, but of entrepreneurs, of risk takers. And the glory is, every time I come to Nigeria, and as I've said, I come a lot, there seem to be more of those Nigerians leaving London and coming home, God bless them. And they are risk takers, and they're hooking up with a lot of Nigerians here who are risk takers. And this, for me, is the silver key to Nigeria's success. Why, despite what we all acknowledge are the challenges, the difficulties of governance, the difficulties of security, the absence of quick, predictable legal redress when investments go wrong, why are you still doing so well? Because so often the Western sort of branding of Nigeria is it's a weak and failing state. Well, I want to leave you with a suggestion that that's the wrong term for it. Instead, you have to look back to America in its early decades for the right term for what Nigeria is. It's a frontier state. It's full of risk takers living on a sort of slightly Wild West frontier at times, but who are trying to build out the institutions that transformed America. America quickly ended its period where laws were weak out as settlers pushed west. And as they went, they started building the great universities, the great cities of the country. And then, at the end of the 19th century, they built the great social compact of an industrialized America, where every American felt they were included in the opportunity of that country. And that is the challenge for Nigeria, to take the energy, the growth, the entrepreneurship, the ambition of frontier Nigeria and build behind it the kind of institutional, fair, inclusive state Nigeria, which will mean investors and Nigerians alike come to see this market of 170 million with its emerging middle class and the fact, you know, it's one of the biggest champagne consumers in the world. We used to say it was the biggest Guinness consumer. Now it's champagne. There's a lot of change going on here. If that can be captured into effective state institutions, then Nigeria, the Delta, and this wonderful state's prospects, I can only think, are going to get better and better. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Malloch Brown. Thank you, Lord Malloch Brown. Incidentally, I noticed you mentioned you were the white Nigerian. I thought that was me, but there you go. Okay, up next, all sorts of players are part of the Bayelsa picture, this picture of a brighter future. And it just occurred to me as some of the people were speaking that it's not just about building infrastructure, it's about building infrastructure of the mind to change the way of thinking, the way of looking at Bayelsa, that brings people together. One very important people in changing people's perceptions and bringing people together for Bayelsa is our next speaker. He's passionate, and I always get excited when I hear him at the podium because his passion for Nigeria and for states like Bayelsa is infectious. Please welcome our next speaker, Mr. Olusegun Aganga, the Honorable Minister for Trade and Investment and Industry of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The Executive Governor of Bayelsa State, who has been described almost by everyone as visionary leader, Honorable Dickson, my colleague and minister, the Minister of Petroleum, Mrs. Desani Alison-madueke, and of course the Deputy Governor, our royal fathers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I was not intending to speak. I thought I was going to join a panel discussion. But I will say a few things based on what I've heard so far, because I was writing a few things. Let me start by saying that globally, all the policymakers, presidents all over the world agree that the only tool that will drive sustainable and inclusive economic growth in the world we live today is trade and investment. That is why we must commend and congratulate the Governor of Bayelsa State for this vision. And I think we must do everything to keep this vision alive, because it's in tune with what's happening not only in Nigeria, but what is happening globally. So on that note, I say congratulations to you, Your Excellency. Nigeria today, or Nigeria for the second year run, is the #1 destination for investment in Africa. Nigeria today, when you look at return, I assume most of you are investors here. When you look at return on investment, Nigeria is ranked #4 in the world with an average return of about 35–37%. The average return in the world is 6%. Nigeria, as you know, Lord Brown talked about BRICS. Today, my former colleague at Goldman Sachs, Jim O'Neill, will talk about MINS. Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria, and Turkey. These are the countries that you expect to see the growth in the world today. We have seen a significant amount of investments in this country, in all sectors of the economy. Across the value chain, so it's not about oil anymore. It's about petrochemicals, it's about fertilizer, it's about methanol. It's about, when we talk about agriculture, it's about the manufacturing that is going from sugar cane to sugar, where we have a minimum of about $3 billion investments going into that sector. When we talk about rice, it's not just about paddy production, it's from paddy to rice. That is why the president was in Nasarawa on Monday, opening the largest rice milling plant in Africa in Nasarawa State. That is how you achieve sustainable and inclusive economic development. When Lord Brown was talking about what we're doing about it, that is the strategy of the country, and it is working. Now, in spite of whatever you may have heard, these are the facts, these are the numbers. When I said Nigeria was #4 globally in the world, they are not my numbers, they are UNTAC numbers. When I said for 2 years running, Nigeria was #1 destination for net investment in Africa, they are not my figures, they are UNTAC figures. So these are numbers that are out there, but there are reasons why they are happening today. My story is very different from the story you probably had a few minutes ago from Lord Brown. My story is the story of a new Nigeria, which our President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan has started building from 2010, and we're beginning to see the results in the country already. My story is about a Nigerian economy that has today one of the strongest macroeconomic environments in the world. When we say one of the strongest, I mean when you look at interest rates, they've been stable. When you look at growth, yes, the average growth has come down from 7% to about 5.5%. But even at 5.5%, it's above the global average. And when you look at compared to other countries, even in Europe, only China and a few other countries are above 5%. So at 5% over 14 years is still a major success for Nigeria. That is why they're coming to Nigeria. So I see a 5%, not less,